What is up, everybody? This is Smokin Joe, and welcome to another and long-awaited episode of Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, before I go any further on this episode, I hope that all of you had a safe and very blessed Thanksgiving, and hope you guys are getting ready for what's going to be coming up next. And that, my friends, is Christmas. And whether you've already got your Christmas tree set up and you're already breaking out the Christmas movies and drinking the eggnog, which I haven't got to do yet, but that's going to be coming here very, very shortly. I hope you guys are ready to take on the holidays as we speak, which, of course, I haven't got started on my Christmas shopping yet, but, you know, it's going to be happening here pretty soon. I don't want to wait till the very last minute, which I've been very guilty of doing before. And I would definitely not recommend. Do not wait until the day before Christmas Eve and try to do your Christmas shopping. If you ever watched the movie Jingle All the Way, and you've seen the holiday rush and all that, him trying to find the notorious Turbo Man doll, then you know exactly where he's coming from. And speaking of Christmas movies, on today's episode, I'm going to be starting what I had originally promised on the last episode. I'm going to be sharing one of my favorite Christmas movies, and I'll be doing that for every episode all the way until Christmas. Be talking about my favorite Christmas movie and just do like a movie review and talk about it. And we'll be talking about what movie that will be until here very, very shortly. Also, speaking of movies, we're going to be talking about some current movie tie-in products that's available right now. And also, we're going to be talking about a new film that's going to be coming out here soon called New Year's Eve. And I'll be going over that more in detail as well. And ladies and gentlemen, what we've got coming up this Sunday is the Kennedy Center Honors. And it was really like a surprise to me, in a way, of who the honorees was going to be this year for the Kennedy Center. And one of those honorees, in case you may have not already seen, and it is, ladies and gentlemen, KISS. They're going to be honored for the Kennedy Center honoree, and I'm really, really excited about that. Because, you know, KISS obviously is one of the greatest rock and roll groups of all time, and as many of you know, sadly this year, just almost a couple months ago, we've lost the late and great Ace Frehley, who was former frontman and spaceman for KISS. And they ended up being a very hard loss, especially for rock and roll fans everywhere, including myself. And some of the other honorees that's going to be mentioned at the Kennedy Center, which includes KISS. You also have country music legend George Strait. Disco pioneer Gloria Gaynor will also be honored. And even in the acting world, Sylvester Stallone, best known for movies such as Rocky, my personal favorite being Rocky IV. Also all the Rambo movies, Demolition Man, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, just to name a few. He's also going to be honored at the Kennedy Center Honor. So definitely a good lineup for this year. And whenever I first saw the news that KISS was going to be inducted, like I was ecstatic about it. And then now further reading about, you know, Sylvester Stallone, along with George Strait, because I'm a George Strait guy, you know, for country music. Definitely a good lineup for this year. And ladies and gentlemen, as we are talking about this topic, I want to hear from you guys. What is your favorite, all-time favorite KISS track? And also, what is your favorite Sylvester Stallone film? I would say mine is definitely a toss-up between Rocky IV and First Blood, which is obviously Rambo, the best one of the series. I would say those are definitely my two favorite Sylvester Stallone films. And definitely the most corniest one, and if you like corny movies and you like to just watch them just for the hell of it, I mean, it's definitely one to check out. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. It also has Estelle Getty, who is also known, or better known, as Sophia from The Golden Girls, and the spin-off series Golden Palace. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't watched that movie yet, I do encourage you guys to check it out. It's definitely a little on the corny side. So I would check it out and let me know what you guys think. You may or may not thank me later, just FYI. But ladies and gentlemen, what we got coming up when we come back from our first break, we're going to be talking about some popular movie tie-in products that is out right now. And it's actually not just necessarily just movie tie-in products. It's also just product tie-ins in general from whether it's cartoon series or whatever. And one of those that you know that I'm definitely going to be mentioning, which with Christmas coming up, is definitely the new Grinch meal at McDonald's. And I'll be talking about that more in detail when we come back from our first break. So ladies and gentlemen, be sure to stay tuned for that. And also some of the other topics that I will be talking about as well. This is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, as a reminder, with every episode, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast on YouTube, as well as follow me on TikTok and as well on Facebook. And also, be sure to go to the Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast Facebook page and be sure to give it a like and follow us for incoming announcements, updates, uploads, and all that good stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, over the years you've noticed with some very popular movies and TV shows that they would always try to release products that help to, boost the movies, commercialism, if you will. One prime example back in 1994 with the Flintstones movie. They had a huge tie-in with McDonald's, or as they called it, Rockdonald's, and had meals that was themed around the movie, like the Grand Poobah meal, which was mainly consisting of the McRib, and they also had these really cool collectible glasses. Well, that practice is still being carried on nowadays with current movies and TV shows and cartoons that's out right now. And a couple of those meals that we have right now are products, rather, that is associated with movie characters and animated characters. Right now at Burger King, you have the SpongeBob SquarePants meal, which is themed around the new SpongeBob movie that's going to be coming out very soon. And I'm hoping here in the next couple days that I'll be doing a review of that, just to let you guys know what my thoughts were on it. So be sure to stay tuned for that coming up. But the burger is consistent. It's literally just a normal Whopper, but the buns are bright yellow, just like SpongeBob is. It also comes with a pineapple swirl float. There is also these bites that are literally about the size of a hush puppy. And it's filled with cheese and bacon in the middle of it. And then an item that was themed around Patrick, which is a strawberry shortcake pie, which looks absolutely amazing. And everything that is put into a box that's literally shaped like SpongeBob's Pineapple House. So, I mean, it's definitely a good way to help promote the movie and to also sell the film. And it's like $15.99 at most Burger King locations. But just with everything that comes with it, including the toys, that it's worth every penny. And right now at McDonald's, as we get closer to Christmas time, we now have the Grinch meal, which is another one of the adult Happy Meals, just like the Minecraft meal that we had a few months back for the Minecraft movie. But this is themed around one of our favorite Christmas figures, and that is the Grinch himself. And for the main item, you can either get a Big Mac or a 10-piece McNugget. It also comes with French fries, and this is actually a concept that they brought from overseas, now finally over to America. And it reminds me of something that Burger King had back in the early 2000s called Shake 'em Up fries. So you would take the French fries, and it came with this pack of salt that came with it. And the salt was cheese flavored, and you pour it into the bag along with the fries, and you shake them up. and you have cheesy flavored fries. Well, McDonald's is trying to revive that concept, but these are flavored like dill pickle. Or, not dill pickle, but fried pickle. So, a lot of people say that they're good, and there are some people I've seen that said that it was disgusting. And once again, I'll hopefully have a review of that here pretty soon, along with the SpongeBob meal. But to come with the meal, along with the fries and whatever your main item is, you also get a mystery pair of Grinch socks, which look very, very cute. And I mean, I think that's pretty cool, especially if you're into the Grinch and if you're one of those that likes to get socks for Christmas. Here you go. I would definitely encourage you to get the Grinch meal at McDonald's, and in no way I'd endorse McDonald's or nothing like that. And other products that's out right now, and I thought this one was very interesting. It's not food related, but for the movie Wicked, they have a Wicked scented air freshener, Febreze air freshener. So it makes you wonder if the air freshener actually smells, wicked, or it has a wicked scent. Here I am with my dad jokes again. But sometimes, movie product, commercialism gets a little too carried away when it comes to movies or TV shows, and they come out with weird products like air fresheners. And then, just like in the case of the Grinch meal and the SpongeBob meal at Burger King and McDonald's, definitely a big seller. And this is a practice, like I said, that you've noticed just in the last, I would say, 30 years. That anytime a big movie comes out, they always try to sell it out with products. Talking about the Flintstone movie. And I'll tell you another big one back, or a couple of big ones in the early 2000s is Shrek and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Because in the year 2000, during Christmas of 2000, you've seen more of the Grinch than you did Santa Claus. Whether it was video games, whether it was toys, whatever the case may be. Commercials for Kmart and Visa credit card. The Grinch was literally everywhere. And a year later, in 2001, or not even a year later, it was the same difference with Shrek. You literally seen Shrek anywhere, whether it was overloaded McFlurries or Twinkies. You even had the Heinz Easy Squirt ketchup that was green. It was themed around Shrek. And sometimes they go a little too far with the commercialization, and sometimes, I think it's a really good tie-in. I remember a couple years ago at Arby's for the new Good Burger movie that Arby's came out with their own Good Burger, and it was actually really, really delicious. I thought it was. And I think that's a good example of a good product tie-in with movies. But you see it everywhere, you see it all the time, so if you're looking for something good, definitely check out the meals, like I said, at McDonald's and Burger King. And I'm hoping here in the next couple days that I'll have a review of both of them. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to come to break number 2. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about more of movies and television. We're going to be talking about a show that I rewatched the other day that I haven't watched in probably, I would say, 25 years, and I'm going to be talking about that show more in detail, let you guys know what I watched. And also a new movie that some of you might consider to be the GOAT of movies, and I'll talk about that more in detail here very, very shortly. And also going to be talking about my favorite Christmas movie, or one of my favorite Christmas movies, and giving you a review on that as promised. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. And we are back once again, ladies and gentlemen. And before we go any further on today's episode, as many of you remember me talking about a couple episodes ago about the possibility of starting up a podcast for all of my Cordia School alumni, That is actually still going to be in effect, and we've already got a Facebook page already made for the podcast, and I do encourage those of you, especially Cordia alumni, that hasn't done so already, be sure to go on Facebook and like the page. And the podcast is going to be ran by my good buddy Jeffrey Combs, since he was the one that originally came up with the idea, and he plans to run the podcast. And we're hoping to get it up very, very soon, so be sure to stay tuned for updates if you go to the Cordia Alumni Facebook page, and also on the new Cordia Podcast Facebook page, and you'll be able to see updates as they happen as to when and how you can listen to that podcast and what to expect. So we're hoping that this is going to be a very big thing, especially as a source for our alumni and everybody to come together just to rejoice and talk about memories of our great school. So just be sure to stay tuned for updates for that, and we'll talk about that more in detail. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, for the month of December, all the way up until Christmas, I'm going to be doing reviews over my favorite Christmas movies. And of course, I had to start off with this movie because it's really one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, and that is notoriously Home Alone. Released in 1990, it was created by John Hughes, and who was once a former writer of National Lampoon magazine, and best known for teen dramas such as 16 Candles and The Breakfast Club. He was also over the National Lampoon's vacation movies, including Christmas Vacation, and also films such as Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is another one of my all-time favorites, and Uncle Buck. Home Alone deals with the mishaps of forgetting more than just your luggage. What if it happens that you forget your child at home? I mean, that can very well happen. As they set out to go on a trip to France to go visit relatives, they leave their troubled child, Kevin McAllister, at home. And he has to deal with living alone and him only 8 years old. And he has to fight off the wet bandits and also the supposed next door neighbor known as Old Man Marley, who buries the remains of his victims in the snow and they turn to mummies. And it's a Christmas classic that I have to watch literally every year, no matter what. And not just that movie, but also the other movies as well, which includes Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, and Home Alone 3. Now, the movies that was made after Home Alone 3, like Home Alone 4 and Home Sweet Home Alone, and the other one that came out in 2012, those movies don't really count with me. They're just garbage. And a lot of people say the same with Home Alone 3, but even though Home Alone 3 was a little bit of a twist where it don't focus on Kevin McAllister and the plot is completely different, it's still, in my opinion, a classic Home Alone movie, and I love it. And I remember having it on video back in the day, and we used to watch the crap out of it. But it's really good if you haven't watched it. Be sure to give it a chance. But definitely the first two Home Alones is the most legendary, from the casting to the writing direction and even Marv's notorious man scream. I mean, what's not to love about this movie? And the thing I find funny, though, is Daniel Stern, who plays Marv in the movie, that the scene where where Kevin takes the Buzz's tarantula and he puts on his face and he lets out the big bloody murder scream. Daniel Stern was literally terrified of spiders. So I'd imagine that scream, that man scream that he let out in the movie, was actually a genuine scream. It wasn't scripted. It was the real deal. And they done a lot of their own stunts too, and I mean, I don't know how they done it, but there's some parts of the movie that is just absolute cringe. Like when Marv steps on the nail in the basement, and when he steps on the Christmas ornaments. It kills my feet every single time. And I've got problems with, anytime like with feet, I just, makes me cringe every time just thinking about it. And there's just so much that movie has to offer in the series in general. Like, it never gets old. No matter how many times I've watched it, and I've watched it, God only knows how much, ever since I was a kid, and they never get old. And looking at it now, the Home Alone house, which is in Chicago, what blew my mind is, just in the last couple of years, I found out that a majority of the shots that was filmed inside of the house was actually filmed at a high school and not in the actual house. The only part of the house that was actually filmed was in the dining room and when you first walk into the house, the main stairwell where Kevin slides down in the sled. But now the bedroom scenes, the attic, everything else was actually filmed in the high school. Actually, it was in a high school gymnasium, and they had rooms sectioned to do the bedrooms. And what blew my mind is, a couple of years ago, they rented out the Home Alone house as an Airbnb. And just how much work and how much they've added onto the house since 1990 when the movie was made is unreal. I mean, the entire freaking basement of the house is literally a basketball court. I was expecting just to see only junk and that creepy furnace that was from the first movie. But no, it's a freaking gym. I mean, it's killer to look at. But I mean, if I want to do an Airbnb of the Home Alone house, I want it to be just like how it was in the movie. And not it be something out of Extreme Home Makeover. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's cool and all. But at the same time, it's just, I wanted to actually hold true and pay tribute to the movie. And it was just disappointing that it didn't. But something they did cool, like right after that, at the Plaza Hotel in New York for Home Alone 2, they actually rented out the same suite that Kevin stayed in, which was literally the presidential suite. And you could stay there and you can eat cheese pizza and ice cream and cookies and watch Angels with Even Filthier Souls and live the Kevin McAllister treatment. I mean, I just probably wouldn't pay with a stolen credit card, but I still think that's pretty cool. But Home Alone, like I said, it's one of those movies that no matter how much time has passed, it's one of those that it never ever gets old. It's just it's a Christmas classic. How others view Christmas Story and Miracle on 34th Street and Die Hard as Christmas classics, Home Alone is definitely in that top tier. And will always be one of my favorite Christmas movies ever made. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking another break here very momentarily. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about an issue that is very personal to me that I've been noticing here a lot lately, especially since I've started the podcast that I want to talk about, and that is bullying on social media. And I want to talk about that more in detail and just kind of give my opinion on it. So be sure to stay tuned to that as we come back from the break. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and like I said before we cut to our break, there was a topic that I wanted to talk about that's been weighing kind of heavy on my mind just within the last week, and actually for a lot longer than that. And that is bullying on social media. before I go any further, I mean, I'm not being bullied on social media, but there is a woman that I've noticed that she does, I'm not going to mention her name, but she does vlogs every single day. And I've been following her for about a year now. And she does cooking videos, she does everyday vlogs, and just documents her life each and every day. And it's kind of sad to know that there's some people that they don't have nothing else better to do with their lives than to make somebody else's life a living hell. And this person, on their Facebook page, and they've also got a YouTube page, and there's also a couple other pages that's online too, that all they do is literally bash this person to the ground, whether it's out of hate, whether it's out of jealousy. The reasons is totally unknown. But this is their hobby, is all they do is literally degrade this person just to try to destroy her reputation. And I'm sorry, I just think it's wrong. I mean, you have to be living a pretty sad life if that's all you want to do is literally destroy somebody just because you can. I mean, it takes somebody really freaking shady just to be able to do that. And I'm not saying that this person's perfect, because I've seen her upload some videos that I could see potentially rubbing somebody the wrong way. But at the same time, you know, nobody in this world is perfect. Everybody's got flaws no matter which way that you look at it. We all screw up from time to time, but we don't need to let our mistakes, even if it's the slightest mistake, to be held over our head from here until the day we die. But some people, they just don't know when to let it go. And it's sad. But every single day I can get on that person's account and they would have some kind of new video or new post just talking about how horrible of a person this person is. And she had a video that, I mean, I can to a certain degree see it rubbing people the wrong way, but it showed her and her child that she was eating, and she was trying to tell the child that he couldn't put his fingers into her plate, that he needed to eat with a fork and not his fingers. And then he tried to do it again, and then she poked him with a fork. And some people say it looked like she just jabbed him with a fork. And of course he started crying, but I mean, some people, they take things like way out of context. And as a result of that video being shared all over Facebook and all over social media and YouTube in general, as a result, they ended up having to call the CPS on her. And all because of a video that's went viral like that. And then they bring up past uploads that she's done and basically calling this person a slob, calling him a scammer, and all this, that, and the other. And I mean, people get in a tough spot sometimes. You know, they want to ask people for money, even though they necessarily don't want to. But everybody gets to a tough spot. But I mean, I don't agree with, you know, asking somebody to donate money just to get something that you want, like a trampoline. But I mean, if it's for something that you need, like, you know, something like that, you know, I understand. You know, people get in a tough time sometimes and they feel like they don't have nobody really to turn to, so they turn to the general public to ask for help. And I mean, I get that. You know, we all have tough times in our life, but that's the only choice that we have, even though whether or not that we want to do it. But I just think it's sad that some people will go to great lengths as to degrade people like that, and it's sickening, honestly. And coming from somebody that's dealt with bullying through school, even through adulthood, I mean, it's not easy. I mean, the way I see it, everybody's got, like I mentioned before, everybody's got flaws. And some people do it out of jealousy because they're jealous of how your life is and it's so much better in comparison to theirs. That their only means of coping is to give somebody else a hard time and bash them over their insecurities just so they can enhance their ego. And I'm sorry, it don't enhance your ego. It just makes you look like, pardon my language, makes you look like an asshole. And I just call it as I see it. It's just, I don't know, people, it never ceases to amaze me the lengths that people will go just to see somebody else's life literally crumble before them. And it's sad to say that there's people like that in the world and there's no stopping them. And that's just something I'll never understand. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking our last and final break, and when we come back, we're going to be sharing some of my final thoughts before we close up shop on this week's episode. And also, we're going to be talking about a couple new movies that's going to be coming out here very soon. And also, to wrap up the show, going to be talking about a very popular urban legend, well, not necessarily urban legend, but a legendary figure that formerly resided here in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, and I'm going to be talking about more of his story in detail. And for those of you that live around here, you probably know exactly who I'm talking about, but I'm going to be sharing my side of the story and what I think about that coming up. And ladies and gentlemen, in the comments, feel free to chime in and be a part of the discussion. Let me know what you think of bullying that's going on social media, as well as what your thoughts are on these movie tie-in products, if you've tried them or not, and also about the Kennedy Center honorees. Who do you think should be included in the honorees for Kennedy Center? Just let me know what you think by leaving a comment in the comments below. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. And we are back once again, ladies and gentlemen, and as promised, I'm going to be talking about a couple new movies that's going to be set to be released in the coming weeks and also within the next years. We are slowly beginning to transition into 2026 and put this year to a conclusion, which I'm going to be honest, this year has not been, it's had its madness and it's also had its gladness, but I'll be glad to see it end because I'm ready to move on to better and more promising things. But coming up here in a couple weeks, which will be released here on December 16th, and that is a new movie that is made by the creator of Final Destination, and he's also a Kentucky native, and that is New Year's Eve. And if the plot involves the three best friends who involuntarily prepare for Hooper Industries' annual New Year's Eve party, which turns deadly when a murderer sets his sights on them. And coming from the person, which is PJ Starks, that made Final Destination and those films, I feel like this will be a really good movie, and especially, coming from somebody that loves horror movies, because Final Destination, that's a movie that'll forever mess with people. I mean, just the entire series in general. It makes you think twice about getting on the road, and anytime that you get behind or you pass a log truck. Or it makes you think twice about boarding an airplane, or getting on a roller coaster, or laying in a tanning bed, or heck, going to a NASCAR race. I mean, it enhances those phobias that you might have. Or heck, to even use a car wash. But I'm really excited about this movie. It does come out here in a couple weeks on the 16th. So be sure to check it out whenever it becomes available. In the movie, it stars Felicia Rose, Dave Sheridan, and Hannah Fireman. Also, to those of you who are a big fan of animated movies like I am, because I'm still a child at heart, this movie you might consider to be the GOAT of animated movies. The greatest of all time, in case you don't know what it means. And the movie is actually called GOAT. And the movie, it's centered around, the plot reminds me of basically the same as Space Jam. But it's more CGI animated, and it don't feature, well, it does feature NBA player, which is Steph Curry, and he's also the producer of the film, which I thought was really wild. And it's all CGI focused. It's made by the same creators of Spider-Man and made by Sony Pictures Animation. And it will be starring Caleb McLaughlin as Will Harris, which is a Beauregard who dreams of becoming a professional rollerball player or basketball player. Also features, like I said, Steph Curry, Dave Harbour, Jennifer Lewis, Patton Oswalt, Jennifer Hudson, Sherry Cola, and Wayne Knight, as many of you remember speaking from Space Jam, played the role of Stan, who was publicist for Michael Jordan's character. And also, other actors and actresses that's been incorporated into the movie, which include Jelly Roll, Bobby Lee, Eduardo Franco, Andrew Santino, and Aisha Curry in undisclosed roles. The movie is set to be released the day before Valentine's Day on February 13th of next year. And it'll be made by Columbia Pictures and Sony Pictures Animation. And this is basically, like I said, this is going to be another ripoff to... Okay, the best way I can describe it, it'll be like Space Jam and Madagascar had a baby, and you get GOAT. And, I mean, this will be a movie I'd be willing to check out. I mean, will it be my favorite movie, or would I consider it to be the GOAT? Probably not. Because as far as, like, animated sports movies, nothing can ever compete to Space Jam. Space Jam was just incredible. I remember when I was 4 years old watching Space Jam when it first came out. I had it on video, and I absolutely loved the movie. And it definitely had a feel just kind of like watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You know, it dealt with live action and also animation. I thought it was really cool for the time, and it featured top-of-the-line NBA players like Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Bugsy. It featured all them guys. And I feel like this would be a cute movie, but I don't know. I just don't see it being like a favorite of mine. But like I said, it's just like a love child of Space Jam and Madagascar. And going back to the whole horror drama, and this will be closing out today's show, is a couple weeks ago, there was a post that had been going around about an urban legend. Well, he's not necessarily an urban legend. I don't know why I keep saying that. But he is a very legendary figure that's often mentioned around Halloween here in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, preferably, or specifically in counties of Perry and Knott. And that is Mr. John C. Young, or he goes by the nickname Johnny Booger. And there was a post that this page had shared on Facebook. They called him Johnny Booker, which is not his name. But Johnny Booger has always been the big subject to scary stories that you would typically hear during Halloween. Rumor has it saying that he had sold his soul to the devil, and that he can do things like make milk come out of doorknobs, and every account is different depending on who you hear the story from. And this has been stories that have been passed down from generation to generation, going as far back as to my great-great-grandparents. And I'm actually related to John C. Young. And I have to go back to see exactly how I'm related to him, but I am related to him distantly. But everybody that's ever been told the story of his legend have always heard different tales of what he could do. But the subject was that he sold his soul to the devil. And he could do things like make milk come out of doorknobs, like I say, point at chickens, they would die. And I remember one story that my grandmother told me saying that he had picked up a queen-size bed by the palm of his hand that had people all over it, and he spun it around like a lazy Susan on top of his hand. Or like somebody taking a big thing of pizza dough and spinning it around. I mean, just kind of listening to it, you think that a lot of these stories are real far-fetched. And I'd imagine some of them really are. Because nobody knows exactly what happened during that time that he was alive. Because that was a long time ago, before any of our lifetime. And he might be a normal person just like, me and you. But he had some intellectual disabilities and anxiety. But something happened, and it just led to him being a big popular topic of folklore here in the mountains, and a lot of different stories are being told about him. And it's always like a Halloween tradition here in Prairie and Knott County to hear his name at least mentioned once. And people around Halloween time would actually go up around his grave in Youngs Fork in Lots Creek in Knott County, and they would go up there and they would party and talk about talk about the legend of him. And it's sad that there's people that actually believe that it's true, and then without knowing the actual full story of what he was actually like. And it kind of, I don't know, like I can't help it. It kind of rubs me the wrong way that people are just kind of like too quick to judge him. Even though it is, in my opinion, still kind of entertaining to hear everybody's accounts of what they've heard about Johnny Booger, but not taking into consideration what he actually was and not some sort of a witch. I just always thought that was interesting, but now looking at it from a different perspective now that I'm older, maybe he wasn't like that in reality. Maybe he was a normal person, just maybe had some intellectual problems. And I mean, that's normal, but some people, they can take topics way out of context and make it out into this major thing. Like blow it way out of proportion. And that might be the case with this, but nobody knows. There's no way that we can find out unless we take a time machine and go back in time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude this week's episode of the Smokin Podcast with Smokin Joe. Be sure to stay tuned for episode 8 as it becomes available. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as on TikTok and Facebook. And also, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like and follow the Smokin Joe Smokin Podcast Facebook page and keep up with announcements and updates as they happen. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we shall see you next time.